There you go. That was you ready to rock and roll? Giddy up! So, another selfish panel for me, right? So when 7 years ago, I was trying to venture out and buy a couple companies. This guy has his brother and sister-in-law who your podcast with them and other podcasts kind of gave me the stones to go quit my job and get started. So thank you. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
but as I previewed on the last one, he's got a operator factory is the best way to put it. And I think a lot of us who are in the seat in the game are very against that. So we're going to talk a bit about that. I think our preference would be for this to be interactive again. So speak up, like let's have a conversation and try and learn, some tactics here, not just tell stories for an hour. But maybe without further ado, Palmer, can you tell us what is Chenmark today? And bring everybody up to speed if they haven't been following along for the last 10 years.
Yeah, so 10 years in the making. It'll be 10 years since we started looking for a business, 10 years next year since we acquired our first business. We'd be classified in the holdco universe when we started. The idea all along was to buy multiple small operating businesses with the intention of holding them forever, definitely forever, in myriad geographies, myriad industries. So that was the kernel of Chenmark 10 years ago before the holdco concept was a thing. Now we be in that holdco universe. So where are we today? So 11 businesses across a bunch of different industries. I get into them. Maine, down in Florida, or Western Canada. We do, I don't know if I call it factory, but we do very decentralized by design. So all of our businesses run totally independently of one another. CEOs run these businesses. They have their own P&Ls, they run payrolls. It could be, in theory, cut off from Denmark entirely. We only centralize what we legally have to for the most part. Then it's been a ride.
So your 10-year anniversary is in October for this fall, something like that?
Yeah, so September of 2015 was when we closed on our first deal. It took us about 9 months to find it. So that's about when we got stuff.
All right, so 11 independent companies over how many transactions?
It's probably over 40 at this point. We don't really know. I don't keep track of it. And some of them, like, deals is such a tough thing, right? Like, some of the deals are done, I've done a low six-figure deal before, so that's technically a deal that's very small.
And what's the one that blew up yesterday?
That was also the mid to high six figures, blowing up in my bits right now. See if I get a phone call from my CEO. It's supposed to be a small tuck-in. Turns out legal matters, guys. Legal matters.
Because
legal matters, it's like, seller doesn't disclose that he's in an active lawsuit, and you find out the day of closing because the ambulance chaser lawyer calls you and sees dollar bills. I'm so stoked you're about to buy this company. I add you to the lawsuit. Sure enough, he filed papers last night after dinner. I got back to my hotel room at 10 p.m. and I'm on the county website looking at docs that now named Chenmark is the defendant in this bullshit suit for a company that we can provide. Welcome to the world.
Let's do the Mike Tyson thing. Everybody's got a plan. So why are you as the defendant in this?
The guy's throwing seven kinds of smoke. Tuesday, so the seller turns out he tried to bury his head in the sand and he thought it was a frivolous suit. I mean, I'll look at the evidence that's public. It's definitely not frivolous. So he didn't appear at the trial. And so he's now guilty by default. So the trial on Tuesday is basically just a warrant judgment. And so
of which you're a defendant.
Of which now we're named. Everyone. The guy did his research on Chenmark. So every company he could find, every person he could find, he probably just went to LinkedIn and searched Chenmark, and anyone that came up, he put their name in. Yeah.
So you want to be a CEO?
This is not the first time I made a lawsuit, but I did call our CEO and CFO of the business that was doing the acquisition. It is the first time they did a lawsuit. So part of my calls yesterday in between sessions was, hey, I know it's happening. We're really sorry. I've been in this seat before. Don't freak out. It's gonna be okay. It's bullshit. It's gonna go away. I know you're probably freaking out because your name's on a lawsuit. It says they're seeking $1 million damages. You're gonna be fine.
As you turn around and call your insurance agent to check on the DNO.
There's an insurance broker who's out there that said insurance is tough. We did close, or no? We didn't close.
When were you supposed to close?
I was supposed to close yesterday.
All right, so back to Chenmark, 11 platform companies. Do you mind details? Because most of us enjoy them. Maybe general location and industry.
3 landscape businesses, I think is what most people associate Chenmark with. It's like the landscape roll up, but we haven't bought landscape business in a really long time. Like I said, I don't like the industry, but multiples now they weren't what they were when we first bought landscape businesses. So 3 of those, one's a commercially focused one, one's purely residential, and one's real hybrid. They're all in New England, but they're all running independent, separate brands. One, what I would call a lawn care business, what you would call, I don't know, how you call it?
Outdoor pest control.
Yeah, I mean, that is like, I feel that is perfect pest control, but it does lawn fertilization, it's mosquito abatement, and seeding, and veg control, stuff like that. That's also New England based. 3 tour businesses, both tour businesses, 2 in Maine, 1 in Florida. We have a Canadian food manufacturing business. We have a Canadian paint retail, then more. It's more manner, not really franchise. More so a commercial company, so it does franchising differently. The outdoor power equipment company in New York, so it sells lawn landscape power equipment to residential homeowners and commercial landscapers. And we have a fruit tree farm, Tennessee.
That's it?
I think that's 11.
That wasn't counting.
Pretty sure that's 11.
All right, so then one last thing, then we'll get into the hard bit. What we're here today to talk about. Talk about what you have done for the past 10 years and then what you're doing today.
Yeah, so at the beginning, a bit of backstory, started Chenmark with my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law. Didn't know what search funds were when we started. Just thought buying small businesses was an interesting idea, and the more we looked into it, the more we thought it was a really cool idea. Obviously, realized what a search fund was pretty soon thereafter. But I think it was good that we didn't know what a search fund was early on. Only after we had sort of gone pretty far down the road to committing ourselves to doing this, because 10 years ago, the whole strategy wasn't a thing. And once we learned the ETA space, about the ETA space, it was clear that we were sort of on the fringes. So I think if we knew what a search fund was back then, we would have been talking about what we were good. So maybe ignorance was bliss to some extent there. So in the beginning, honestly, they say partnerships should be like 1 + 1 = more than 2. I'd honestly say that 1 + 1 + 1 is probably less than 3. We did a lot of stuff together, and so it was not super efficient, but I really think it helped us get to know how we all worked and what we were good at. So then we could sort of separate. So the first thing that I started to take on was search. So I did search for a little bit. I headed up search. Did a bunch of our early acquisitions, or was lead on a bunch of our early acquisitions, and then. I'm sure you want to get into it, but then I was sort of forced into a CEO role and realized how not to hire CEOs, and had to replace the CEO and didn't have a CEO factory, didn't have a CEO bench. Stepped in to run the business, ran that business for about 4 years, and stepped in to run a different business on kind of what ended up being a fairly interim basis. And almost about a year ago, I stepped out of that role, and now I'm overseeing 5 of our businesses, working pretty closely with those 5 CEOs, and some stuff on the whole co.
So kind of like this art from the last panel, you're a coach, you are a board member, you support the CEOs who run 5 internet companies too.
Yeah, so we don't have formal boards, but I think people would probably say, if I were to describe what I do, I'd be a fairly active board member. I'm definitely a coach a lot of times. Sometimes I'm a mentor, sometimes I'm a kick in the ass, sometimes I'm a hand on the shoulder. I'm a sounding board a lot of times. Stuff that you can't talk about with your teams, or things that you've seen that maybe I've seen before, I've seen at other businesses. 10 years in this world, and I've seen a lot. I've gone through a lot of reps myself. I've seen a lot of reps. So having that pattern recognition helps being able to download that to some of our CEOs who may have been in the world as long as I think helpful.
So first question would be, and it's super open-ended, and then we'll just kind of dig down. What makes for a great CEO? When we say CEO, by the way, I think what we mean is the senior most leader in the business, whatever it's called, president, CEO, what have you. What makes for a great CEO of a typical business you own, which maybe what we can do is frame it, right? 5 to 20 of revenue.
Yeah.
And on the contrary, what makes for a suboptimal?
Yeah. So this question's coming, so I'm thinking about this for a little bit. If I were to distill it down as much as I possibly can, I'd say great CEO, very high processing power, processing speed. You get a lot of stuff coming at you when you're the CEO of a business. Your aperture is very wide. Things are coming at you from a lot of different domains. So you need to be able to process all that and contextualize it and figure out what's important, figure out what's not important, triage it, that kind of stuff. So you just need, call it sometimes intellectual and analytical horsepower. You just need some of that to be able to take it on it. And then I think the other piece is you need to be a good communicator. A lot of stuff comes down to communication. What's in your head? Can you communicate that clearly and concisely to a team? Can you do it in a way that gets them on board, gets them interested, gets them motivated? Can you do that in a way that sort of creates a shared consciousness in an organization? If you can do that, and for those of you that have run businesses, you've probably seen times as a CEO or as an operator that your businesses have really taken and lurched forward. And, the sort of, say, call it firing on cylinders or something like that. In my opinion, that generally happens when you have really good alignment and shared consciousness in a team.
I should have done this to start. Can you guys raise your hand if you're a searcher? And if you're in the seat now, running a business?
Yeah, so they talk.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's go. All right. I'm going to first.
An easy answer is the opposite of those two things. I'd say I had a couple, and Caroline and Evelyn actually talked about it earlier. I think a lack of humility, you're fucked in the space. And people are going to suss that out, and you're going to lose the team real fast. I also think I wouldn't put this as nice humility, but I think authenticity is really important. There's a lot of stuff out there about how to be a good CEO, but the reality is there's a lot of different ways to be a good CEO. And that's why I try and focus on principles and not discrete things, be this, do that. A lot of people say Steve Jobs is a really good CEO. Well, they also an asshole a lot of times too. And you should try and be Steve Jobs. That's not you. And Jack Welch, sometimes he's an asshole too. Sometimes he did a lot of pretty good things too. It's I think you just need to be true to who you are and what kind of a leader and what kind of manager you want to be. And that's different for different people. So I think there are themes that all good leaders need to do. But I think if you try and be someone else, you're going to be inauthentic. It's going to be hard to be effective leading in that way. And you kind of need to marshal people real drums.
I don't see as many reps as you do, but I'm starting to see a fair number of reps. And
It's not true.
The patterns that are repeating are that a lot of us get in the seat and don't realize that it's maybe not the job we expected. We left a corporate gig and like the idea of sitting behind a computer. Well, when you're managing a team of blue collar folks, you don't sit behind a computer. You have to be out there getting punched in the nose, dealing with all sorts of stuff. So I think maybe a willingness to get into the weeds, the tough stuff, the managing of people to start. And my reps probably come from seeing a lot of smaller businesses. So how does that role as CEO, a good or a not good CEO, change as a business gets bigger?
Yeah, so to be fair, a lot of our businesses are still small too. I think that's a degree difference, but John's stage 1 to 3, I think is a good framework there. But there's different life cycles and maturation phases of the company in terms of their sophistication levels and capabilities. I think certainly early on, especially if you're a new CEO, you're going to have to work in the business. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the drumbeat of work on the business line, the business has gone a little bit too far. It gives people the impression they shouldn't do anything in the business. Guess what? It's a small business. There's not a lot of redundancy out there. You're going to have to work in the business to some degree. I don't think that's bad. I think it gives you great awareness of what it's like on the front lines. I think it gives you great context for that. I think it helps build the camaraderie of your team. So I don't think that's bad, but it is definitely balance. Certainly, but if you do that, you learn the business really well. You learn what really drives the business. You learn, in my opinion, there's always 3 to 5 things in every business that you really need to that are key to the business performing well. You really need to make sure are doing well in order for the business to function. And if you do those 3 to 5 things, a lot of other stuff can be bad, can be broken, can be totally fucked up, and you're still okay. On the flip side, if those 3 to 5 things aren't moving in the right direction, aren't okay or good enough, you can be perfect everywhere else. It's not good. So that, I think there's you earn the right to sort of move on to like the next maturation phase. And then it is going to be a lot more about looking out. Are you pointing the company in a good direction for? I always felt like maximum I had visibility, like conviction about where I thought the company was going. It could be 18, 24 months. Beyond that, and I very much was a big believer in like the Herb Keller 5-year plans are bullshit. Things change so fast. It's not worth the time you put into it. I think know like roughly what direction I'm going and trying to put the company in a position to be successful 6 to 24 months after. I felt like that was my job as I got through that early part learning the business at the beginning.
So we've seen one of our leaders run a business to start. It was 12 million in revenue, 2 million earnings, and he was the point of contact for customers. So if you're in this seat now running a business, are you talking to your customers daily? Raise your hand. Yes. That's it. I'm really surprised. And the rest of you, raise your hand if you're in the seat and you're not talking to customers every day. Okay. Maybe that's you guys either being ahead of the game or I don't know the game. We've seen he's now running a business that is north of 50 of revenue. And we see that you just go from being a doer to a coach of the doers. And it is a hard change. So is that something somebody can develop, and how to develop that change and the progression in a growing business?
I don't think it's something to develop. I enjoyed that progression. I think doing it allowed me to understand for myself. I feel like I'm the kind of person that I don't feel like I understand anything until I understand something very deeply and completely. So it's not a linear thing. Oh, I feel like I understand this thing a little bit more. It's like it's nothing, and then it's okay, I got it. And if I got it, then I understand what's upstream of it, what's downstream of it. I understand second, third order implications of the decisions I made, and that kind of gives me clarity to then know, all right, how do I delegate it? How do I automate this stuff? How do I just say this? We don't need to do this thing. And so like that, I think that was a natural progression for me. I'm seeing in some of our CEOs as they go through that journey. I think part of it is just confidence, and part of it is, you got to be willing to let go a little bit and understand that some things aren't going to go well. Some things are going to get done in a way that you wouldn't do. Some things are going to get done in a way that are going to go worse. But I really like picking quotes, so I'm probably going to do some other quotes. But one of them I really like is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's an advocate proverb, I believe. I've seen it quoted a couple different ways, but I really like that as an idea. But yeah, I can go faster, but I just do a lot of this myself. I'm going to work hard, do a lot of things myself, but that's not really going to build the muscle in the company to take it beyond what anyone else can do.
And do you tend to have to encourage your CEOs to build the team, or do you find that most of your CEOs are getting there on their own?
Loaded question. We talked about this last night. Yeah. No, I do. I do have to sort of push some of our CEOs to build the team, especially for big strategic hires where the payoff isn't going to be immediate.
What does that mean? CFO or something else?
Yeah, CFO in this case. I got a CEO I'm working with. Business is performing really well. The foundation is really solid. But what's lacking, what sort of the company hasn't figured out quite yet, is really, really sophisticated revenue growth organically. But the company's ready for it. And it's the kind of company that, if you slam on the accelerator on the sales side, you really put yourself in a world of hurt if you don't have the infrastructure ready to handle that and to develop people to service that influx of revenue. But I think they're there. And, it's a big hire. It's going to call it a director of growth, call it chief revenue officer. It's going to be a big hire. And, making sure that he's just, it's a big hire, it's a lot of money, it's not going to pay off a little bit, it's not clear it's going to pay off. Sort of knows that he needs someone like that, doesn't exactly know how it's going to unfold. That's the whole point of hiring a key strategic level person, is they're going to figure out what, right? You kind of point in the direction, hey, this is where I need the focus to be. And, if they're a high quality person, they're going to figure it out.
And would your preference be to hire ahead of the need to sort of be more aggressive on that front? Or has Chenmark traditionally been, slow and methodical to make those key hires to get it right, so to speak?
Yeah, my guess is if you were looking from the outside in, you'd probably say we're slow and methodical. We we expect all of the companies to be on indefinitely, so we're not super in a rush to grow a ton for that next year. So I think that means that I think there's a natural conservatism there that you could argue is bad. But we also employ some pretty high quality type A people, so they want to get that too. So I think it's good. I would say we give our CEOs the flexibility of not having external pressure of having to do things in their business, so they can pace things the way they want. Right? We underwrite deals very conservatively. Don't have private equity looking over our shoulder saying you better hit this higher rate, otherwise. But so I think that sort of takes a lot of the edge off and allows CEOs to develop at their own pace.
All right, let's pivot a little bit. The internet's full of great stories, sunshine and rainbows, success. But Caroline talked about it this morning. I've been there twice, where things have been going super sideways. Whether it's tight on cash or losing customers, you lose a key person or three. Anybody been there, or is it just me? Come on. Everybody here who hasn't been there will be there sooner or later. So what is it you're looking for, either in a CEO generally, or any characteristics somebody could step in when it's wartime? And maybe you're trying to get into hiring for wartime versus peacetime in a CEO spot.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So stepping in to a CEO role myself was a bit of a wartime. CEO was a bit of a turnaround.
What business was that?
That was our lawn care business.
Okay.
So it's not the grass cutting, lawn fertilization, outdoor pest control in your terminology. So we had tried to hire externally for the CEO role, so acquire business, and we're going to find a CEO to plug in right on the day of closing. We've tried that a few times in the early days of Chenmark, and it didn't work out in any case for us. That's why we pivoted to developing internally. But that was that iteration, and things weren't going well. Teams pissed off, earnings were plummeting, cash was dwindling, and realized he was falsifying reports to us. So that was the last year off. And we need to make a change. We need to make a change really fast. And James, Trish, and I had a meeting, and it was just us. So one of us has to go run the company. 9 days later, I was introducing myself as the CEO of Mandrake. So I had 9 days to prepare for the CEO. I don't know if I have real principles in that. I think that situation in and of itself is a force of function. You're strapped on time. Things need to change. The benefit is the team also knows things they need to change. Right? When things aren't well, it's easy to get things aren't going well. It's easier to get promotion and easier to engage in change management. So some aspect of it was kind of easier for me to come and say, "Yep, I had a hand in hiring that guy. That was the wrong hire. I fucked up. I'm sorry, but I'm here personally to fix it, and I want to be here until I fix it." And first impressions matter. So I think it was Caroline, right? Yeah, it was Caroline. I would 100% in those early days talk to everyone in your business, but I would also work your best. It's just at that point, FaceTime happened. Right? So I was the first one in the office, last one there for 90 days. I've never worked hard in my life. I got super sick. My now wife was in my girlfriend. This is unsustainable. So I was like, this is what I need to do. And it was just a force of function. There was the only way out was luckily we had hired for wartime CEO, so I don't know if I'd vote for someone different. But it does force you to have to make decisions fast.
And I go one step further, the old saying, "Don't let a crisis go to waste." When you are tight on cash, twice, and all you have is the hustle and energy of your team to get past it, and you make mountains move fast. So actually, I hate to say this, so long as you can survive it, I don't hate a crisis like somebody running out of cash because of what it forces.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that you go through hard times and then you look back on it fondly. A lot of people talk about parenthood that way. But I have to be a parent myself, and that's what I'm hoping. That's what it's going to be like. That you go through and then you look back on it it was miserable, but it was great. And I look back at those first 90 days, it was awesome. Brought a team back together, felt like I sort of gave an edge. There was a bit of a conscious element of it, feeling like I didn't have to feel guilty anymore, putting the wrong guy in the seat. And luckily things went well. Maybe I feel differently. I got in there and I made some really bad decisions, and then I torpedoed the company further, and like actually put the nail in the coffin. Luckily, that didn't happen. So it was great that kind of got forged by this like intense moment of wanting to turn to business with them.
All right, hard stop. Let's go to GDP. What is it, and why did it come about? As much detail as you're willing to offer.
Yeah, so it's because I'm going to say 9.8 out of 10 owners we talk to who want to sell their businesses don't have someone. They want to retire. They don't have someone in the business who's capable of stepping up in the CEO role. So in order to successfully acquire those businesses, you need to be prepared to have someone step in. The search fund community has solved that problem by the searcher is the one stepping into that role. There's only 3 of us. We can't split 11 different ways between me, James, and Trish to come up with a different solution. We tried buying businesses from owner operators who were going to stay on, the CEOs. That didn't work great for us. We tried hiring CEOs directly into the CEO role and found out that it was really hard to hire for that person. It's hiring is a dating game. Your hit rate is not 100%. And so putting them into a CEO role, which for us is a role with a ton of autonomy, a ton of agency, and a lot of decentralization means it's really critical to get that position right. So sort of by necessity, we've done 2 of those things that work. The only other thing to do is that we got to develop it internally. So credit to James, he masterminded the GDP program where we bring people in. Generalist Vice President stands for Generalist Vice President. Same as the CEO development program. Bring people in to work with us at Chenmark HQ. That's really an opportunity for us to make sure that we hire the person we thought we hired, and make sure they join the company they thought they were joining. We get them reps in search so they can see a lot of deals, see a lot of small businesses, understand how a lot of business models and how businesses work from an owner's perspective, from a deal perspective.
So they started HQ.
Started HQ in Portland. Yeah. Man, we don't do remote. So they're all moving. And so they do that for part of the time, and then part of the time is they do sort of ad hoc project work with our current CEOs. So the stuff that can be carved out, really have to use some help. Excellent. Stage 2 is they then go work at one of our current operating businesses in a senior leadership type of role. So CFO, general manager, chief of staff, head of sales, head of people, director of growth.
Do you create the role, or do you fill a needed spot with somebody who's ready to go to step 2?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the majority of our CEOs now are people who've gone through the GPP program, so I think they realize, we're doing our job well. We're hiring great people in that program. They're adding value even before they become a CEO. And those GPPs who are now CEOs realize that an opportunity to bring a high quality person in their organization. Yes, by definition, they're not going to be around very long. It's a position that's designed to turn over. So they're meant to become CEOs themselves. But I'd rather have a really high quality person for a year or 2 than not have a really high quality person at all.
So step 1 at HQ, step 2 in a operating business in a senior role, and then step 3, and what does that look like, the big jump?
Yeah, step 3 CEO. We're always looking for new opportunities. So once they get to that stage, then they're sort of eligible to become CEOs. And as we have deals that come up, they have an opportunity to further hat the ring. And so if it's a deal that they're interested in, it's an opportunity they're interested in, they can probably basically run an internal application process at that point.
All right, so an example of a GDP person who went, just don't call name, but a industry they went into a senior role as step 2, and then different state, different industry they went to run a business.
Yeah. That would be good news. Sean was here with me last time, so he probably is the fastest one to go through the program. Came into Chenmark, blew the doors off early, so then he went to be the CFO of one of our landscaping businesses on Cape Cod. So he moved to Maine, and he moved to Cape Cod as a CFO there for about 8 months, maybe. So actually pretty fast, because then we had an opportunity for a boat tour business out in Florida. Down in Florida, he ran a partnership for a year. And so, yeah.
That's cool. So what is the average time from, getting brought to HQ to now I'm in the seat?
Yeah, honestly, average times can be very similar to the search research, sort of by design, but the majority of that time, ideally, is being in an operating business. So you're seeing what it's like. You're not spending that time searching per se. You're spending a lot of that time in an operating business with people reporting into you, understanding what goes on in a small business so you can get sort of as close to the action as you can get without being the CEO.
Go ahead.
How do you incentivize
Yeah, sure. CEO is easy. So for us, like the big thing that we focus on is free cash generation. And so we give them a split of the free cash flow that their business generates. And then we pay that in cash. And we give them an opportunity every year to take that cash and buy Chenmark Holdings, the holding company stock. So you earn your incentive compensation based on performance of the company that you're in charge of, but then you can convert that into stock of the holding company if you believe in the long-term compounding of the holding company. If you don't, or if you have things you want to use with that cash, no problem.
Just the CEOs offer that opportunity?
No, I mean, we're trying to bring, in terms of giving people options to acquire stocks that are slowly working down the org chart. Mostly because of education. I'm trying to understand. It's not the black hat, right? We're a holding company, diversified small businesses, cross borders. It's an illiquid stock. It only trades once a year. But we do make a market. So owners of stock have an opportunity to sell. So like there is liquidity available to stock owners without an exit. So that's how we solve that. Which is, hard to communicate that to someone who makes that program. So anyone who comes to work in a PVP program has access to that program from the start. And then at this point, we're probably at the sort of senior leader to middle management layer of employees at all of our companies who have access to it. Sort of is at the CEO's discretion where in the organization they want to allow people to convert incentive compensation into stock.
So you push down the ability to earn a cash bonus annually based on free cash flow of the business they're in.
Yep.
And then buy into equity holdco, which is illiquid other than one time a year.
Correct.
That's interesting. I think that should work.
Yeah, so honestly, we can't take super credit for this. It's partly pilfered from Berkshire Hathaway, and partly pilfered from actually the Motley Fool. Fun fact, I went to the same high school as the guy two brothers actually started Motley Fool, and they went to the same high school with my brother and I. So I actually got to know him. And so found out that's what they did. They wanted people to have equity, like incentives, but they didn't like options. They thought they were clunky and hard to deal with. And liquid stock, how do you provide liquidity? And so that's what they did. They make an internal market once a year, that trades once a year, and you can have buyers and sellers smash the book. And I think it's an elegant solution. It's not perfect, right? You only have liquidity potential once a year, but it's better than nothing.
I wanted your documents. Can I?
Yes. People have asked us that. No. If you're a lawyer, you can drop your own documents. I know a lawyer.
Don't insult me like that. All right, so you might just go here one more place and then we'll go out to some questions. The hardest thing, in my opinion, is how hiring for key people. So when you put your application process out, what does that look like when you get applications in? What are you screening for? What are the right profiles and approach? Walk us through.
Yeah, so obviously our application process is really pretty simple. It's a resume and it's a Google form question of like 5 questions. Which are, you can look at our websites. Why are you interested in this business? It's fairly generic, but sort of on purpose. They're broad enough to let people answer them how they want. Honestly, so we put people through a process. Phase 1 is there with our head of recruiting, and so she'll do a first screen, really just to make sure they're sort of a good fit for this role at a super basic high level. And then we'll do some sort of case study type work. We had to change that up. Turns out we found out some of our case studies were making it out to job boards and stuff, so it was getting like marked out. So now we had to create multiple different case studies to keep the market honest. So we do that work just to make sure they have some of that capability. Because if you're coming from an absolute standstill of not being able to, you have to look at financials that were in life. Probably not the best place. If you don't know what gross margin is, like probably not the best place to start. Go ahead.
But how deep do you look for financial acumen?
Not super deep. I think have generic understanding. Same kind of understanding that any searcher would expect to need in order to get into space. So if you're looking for deals, you gotta understand. You look at the P&L. I spent a lot of time, talking about financial statement analysis, accounting, even with GPPs that come in. So we want them to have a basic understanding, but there's opportunity for them to sort of beef up some of that if they need to. Your question also, so phase 3 is we bring people in for a round of in-person interviews, and we have to meet with a group of 5+. I think that's the thing that works. business. I think if you were to ask any one of those 5 people, we'd all say on that group, we'd all say that we're terrible interviewers as individuals, but I think collectively we're great. And I think because we're all looking for slightly different things, I think the wisdom of the crowd really works. I know one thing that I screen for more than anything else is just a true authentic interest in wanting to be in this world. That is really important going back to sort of when things get tough. It's really easy to be CEO when things are going awesome. And it's not so great when things aren't. Things are blowing in your face or catches tight or you're named in a lawsuit for a business you didn't even buy. So like, do you want to be a CEO in those days? And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, don't. Yeah.
What is, like, I know obviously we have a sense for what that means, but as it relates to being in an SMB, what is inauthentic?
Yeah, you need to be willing and you need to want to sign up for the whole, not just the good parts. So like if you're in it because of the title, you love the fact you're going to be the CEO, you're in it because you think your day is going to be like Warren Buffett eating brittle and drinking cherry coke and thinking about capital allocation, reading books on like that ain't it. It's just not. So you got to be in it for the whole job, the good and the bad.
People management, customers, acquisition, all of those things, the hard stuff.
The nitty gritty, you got to be willing to work into business. I was just talking about John earlier. I thought it was great, like zooming in and zooming out. Yeah, you need to do both, not just the zoom out. Like if you think it's going to be CEO, I'm going to manage the business by decree in my corner office at 30,000 feet. Not going to work. Not going to happen.
All right, so I got you off. You're interviewing us. The third step, they come in, they interview, you screen as a group.
Yep.
And then?
We fill out an assessment form independently. So we have a strict rule. We don't talk about candidates until we've done that. So it's true independent assessments for everyone. And we sit in a room and we go through AFB. And the big thing is we force ourselves to rate people on a 0 to 100 scale, which I really like. So 100 means like you're pounding the table like your champion style. Like I'm pounding the table, I want to hire this person. 0 is like you're going to try and convince people why we're not hiring this person. And everything in between, right? So you can be a total offensive and sit at 50. So I think that helps, like, it helps quantify what is definitely a subjective assessment to say, like, yeah, I think we should hire this person, but do you think we should hire this person to the tune of a 90 or to the tune of a 65? And those are 2 very different things.
And so the answer is yes, we are hiring them. Are you hiring them for any specific role, or are you willing to hire just to come to HQ?
Yeah, we're just hiring now. We're hiring a GVP, and we're hoping and expecting that they're turning into a CEO.
Do you think that those of us in the audience, running a $5 million revenue, $10 million revenue business should take that approach? It's different. You have a holding company.
Yeah.
You have the infrastructure. You have a P&L to support that. Can that playbook work for a single company operator?
I think you need to paint a picture of what the future could look like for that individual, right? So people are coming to us if they want to be CEO. We're telling them this is a program that is designed to put you on that track, right? So yeah, you could offer that too. I'm hiring a chief of staff with the expectation that person is going to take over for me as the CEO. That could work too. I'm very reluctant to tell anyone what is right, what is not right. We were told 10 years ago that what we were doing was not right. And so my biggest piece of advice to anyone in this space is don't let anyone tell you what's right or wrong. If you have conviction on what you think should happen, make it happen. This world is full of people who are figuring it out.
All right, with that, let's go out there. Chase.
Palmer, quick question for you. It sounds like the EVP program is an awesome vetting process, but in the event that you find yourselves wondering if you have the right person in the seat, how do you think about that? How do you handle it? Has that happened before?
So like a GVP goes to the program.
Yeah, it lands in a seat.
And it turns out we were wrong, made a wrong decision.
Yeah, or maybe the company outgrows the individual or fill in the blank.
Yeah. Candidate hasn't happened yet. We've had really good success rate with that. We've had people not make it through the program. So I think the program is working in that regard. It's both either, they're not the right fit from our perspective, or they realize this isn't where I want to be and I want to go do something else. So I think the program really works in that regard. I'm sure it will happen, to be honest, and honestly, like probably not great to say, but the reality is if you have a bench of people who are really capable, someone gets through the program and isn't a good fit, in theory you have other people there that can step in. So it's not, a fire on fire. I'd say I caveat that with we are very patient. So we're not expecting CEOs to be around and be the world's best CEOs. That's why, we underwrite deals what we do. That's why we take a very permanent mindset of, I'm not expecting. No one comes into this world fully formed, ready to be a fantastic SMB CEO. I sure as shit wasn't. I made a ton of mistakes. Just glad that on balance, I made more good decisions than I made bad decisions. But, if I was under intense pressure to make every decision the right one, I probably would have fucked up. And it's a tough role.
So how do you think about the financial relationship between the individual companies and the holdco? How much cash flow can they keep on the books and how much goes up to the HQ's?
Great question. Simple answer, we make sure that everyone understands that money costs money. So if they want to, there's essentially a capital charge. So if you take equity from Chenmark, it comes at a price, just like debt comes at a price. So you want to retain earnings to invest back in your business, great, you should do that. But there's a charge for it. So you should make sure that the return on that investment is in excess of that charge.
You mean like it's a annual rate paid back on equity injected into the business?
This is still right from Berkshire.
So they get to keep like a couple months worth of capital?
They can keep whatever they want. Just money costs money.
Okay, so literally every dollar they keep costs money.
In general, how do you feel about career programs with the GD program, former operators, whether they have a very successful track record, maybe spotted one, like, is that, do you feel people who are kind of like, easier, bold, or what is your thoughts?
Yeah, like if you were to look at the backgrounds of people in our GDP program, I'd say like pretty myriad backgrounds. Obviously, we skew younger because that tends to be where people are getting exposed to the world of VTA, who want to do something and can't really up for an adventure when it comes to moving, because our program is going to mandate that people probably move at least once, if not a couple times. So definitely skews younger, but we got people who are ex-professional athletes. We got people who are like right down the middle with management consulting and banking. We got everything in between.
But that's like actually former, or something like, home business or group business, something like that too.
Yeah, we got a guy in our program who he started a sort of lawn care, an outdoor pest control business, pretty small, $7 million in revenue, sold it, learned about ETA, came into our program, like the world on fire. Didn't have formal training of business or finance or consulting or anything like that. It's awesome.
And so you're not skewing financial acumen, you're not skewing operational acumen, you generalist by definition.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you need to have that in order to step into a CEO seat, right? So the great part of the program is, if you're coming in, let's say you got a lot of operational experience, you don't have a lot of financial experience. Okay, well then, in your program, you should probably spend a lot of your time trying to beef up on your financial acumen, because you're going to get smoked. If you're a CEO and you don't know the first thing about how to read financial statements, or you don't really understand the key concepts of finance. The world's not like, it's not like looking for accountants here or bankers, but you got to know a little bit.
Still good.
Yeah, are you actively reaching out to people to invite them into the program, or is it mainly like they mentioned Mark Springs and aware of it, and they're figuring it out the point?
Both. So like certainly when I run into people, I talk to people, that I think it might be an interesting fit, or they might be interested, I'm sure they're aware of it. Our previous DVPs do the same thing with people they know. We're being fortunate to be in a position where, in certain circles, Chenmark's a known thing. So some people reach out to us on that thing. Make weekly thoughts for 10 years. It's been helpful in that regard. So I think it's all the above approach. We spent time in business schools. We did the whole business school circuit, just like a lot of the investor cohort too. Business schools are obviously a classic point where people are looking for their next step.
What do you think the difference is between people who choose to do the GVP program versus just buy their own business?
Yeah, probably a better question to ask about GDPs. My guess is they're doing it because they want to be part of a team, and they want to spend their sort of learning period, not learning search, but learning what it's like to be in business. It's no secret to anyone in this room, whether you're searching or operating, like searching is a lonely process. I couldn't imagine doing it myself. when it was just me, James, and Trish, are still aspects of the being lonely. Being a CEO is lonely. You know, there's a reason for the phrase "it's lonely at the top." Like there's things that shit rolls uphill until it finds a CEO, and sort of like anti-gravity. And there's some things you can't talk about with your team. And when I tell the CEOs I work with, it's like, look, I can't protect you from that entirely. You have a lot of agency and autonomy, but with that comes a lot of responsibility. But you know that. But hopefully doing it here is a little bit less lonely. You gotta let people walk that road. You gotta let people who are walking that road currently. And I think some people like being part of something sort of bigger.
And maybe, Will, the other thing is search, the hit rate's not perfect, right? So a lot of people out there self-fund a search and then just don't find anything. And I would guess if you get into the program, your hit rate into getting into the seat is maybe better than just a searcher's chance of going from searcher to another.
I think I said, so you're saying like 33% of searchers don't find a deal. Like what percentage of GDPs make it to CEO? Yeah, certainly it's much higher than 33% right now. But I say, like, if you make it to the program to a point where we think you would be a good CEO, like we're doing deals all the time. I'm not concerned about the deal part. I'm concerned about, they want to be a CEO, they want to stay in this world, we think they're capable of doing that job, then I have like zero concerns that they're not going to be an operator.
So you kind of said this implicitly. I just want to be explicit about it. Do you think about CEOs as being good at certain levels? Like some people, big picture, good at 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 20, something like that. When you think about your CEOs, do you think about you got to replace them out X number of years because the growth of the business demands you?
Yeah, so I think I probably carve out some of that. So 0 to 1, I think is totally different. We don't do 0 to 1.
Yeah.
I'd be shitty at 0 to 1. So like that, I'd say is definitely totally different. The 1 to 10, 10 to 100, whatever. To be honest, I haven't seen any of our businesses go to $100 million revenue. That's a lot. You're closer to that than we are. So I guess I don't really know. I'd say like on principle, I believe in people's potential for growth. And so like I wouldn't say out of hand that by definition we gotta be replacing people because the business is scaled. Presumably the business is scaled because they've been able to scale themselves and their teams as well. So I wanted to give them every opportunity to scale the business. If that's not what they want, that's another aspect which I think is great, is that we are in a position where we can have CEOs say, I'm looking for a different challenge, looking for a new challenge. We've had one CEO running one company and running another company. So that sort of thing is going to happen in the future.
Now, maybe take the other side of that. I think the 1 to 10 function, the skill set, does fundamentally change at it probably depends, but multiple locations, multiple divisions, 30, 40, 50 of revenue, I think it fundamentally changes. When you have essentially a CEO quality person in each of the functional areas, and then your job is to manage, hire, and rinse and repeat, and do deals. And then when you get a fair bit bigger, you have other problems you didn't have before. You all of a sudden, the bank requires audited financials. How many of you guys have audited financials requirements out there? Well, it's a huge lift to go. It sucks. Sucks. So then you need a CFO. Well, how many hires of the CFO role is it going to take to find a great CFO? So it's a lot of that. Yeah. Instead of when you're sort of 2 to 10 of revenue, you're fighting the fight every day. People, customers. You can imagine. I'm the one rep at that, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, so this is why I think maybe I'll sing a different tune once we see the installment. And some of our companies are in trajectory, they'll probably be in that zone. I would 100% agree. There's a huge distinction between one location and two, and that's a big. And communication becomes even more important. Now you can't physically be in the same place as your entire team. So how you communicate, how you disseminate information, how you set standards, the clarity that you need in the organization, that definitely is true. I stepped into that in my first CEO seat, so it was roughly about $10 million in revenue, but it had 3 locations. Now it's 5. So I had to learn how to be a CEO of a distributed company that had multiple ranges where maybe twice a year the whole company is together physically.
Does the,
Those go next. Sorry.
No, you're good.
does the autonomy of your operating companies extend to culture, or is it consistently Chenmark?
Yeah, they're got setting their own culture. Chenmark has our values. Again, got to have to James for being the primary architect of that. I think they're ones that are easily accommodating of subcultures as well. So I think there's some aspects, keeping score, playing the long game, putting team first. Those things can be encapsulated in a lot of other values. So if I just give you an example, the lawn care, located that overhead, painting the grass. When I stepped in, I interviewed everyone in the company, and one of the questions they asked is, how would you describe us to friends and family? What do you want? You describe us to friends and family. How would you like us to be remembered? I was very surprised at how consistent that answer was across the whole organization. Quality, customer service, and education were 3 words that kept me up. I didn't love those core values, to be honest, but I thought they were coming in. Probably could have punched them out a little bit, but there was so much consistency. Everyone in the organization wanted to be bought into quality, customer service, and education. Oh, great, done. We don't need to do an office site. We don't need to do anything. Those are our core values. And it's been that ever since.
And you've taken the decentralized approach to every broadly defined, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious, like the first year or two after somebody's in the CEO role, obviously I know you have a focus on free cash generation, but those first 2 years are a lot of like J-curve investment. How are you reviewing your CEOs? What are success metrics you hold them to in the first couple of years?
Yeah. So we definitely see some J-curve. I wouldn't say it's as pronounced as what I feel like other people talk about, maybe because of just generally like fairly conservative in how we underwrite. I think we have gone through that sort of, we call it the car wash period a lot of times. So I think as one area where I think the shared services can really help. All right, the technology, let's bring it to a place. We're going to get better IT systems on day one. The Chentech teams kill everything. They're there at 2 a.m, setting up the network and everything. So everything works the next day. The marketing's partnering with the CEO to do a scrum of everything. Sort of get the company at baseline pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super concerned about earnings dipping a little bit. What I'm focused on is, what's the plan? And I don't have any hard and fast thing that you better hit this margin, you better hit this. It's more, are you on top of it? Certainly in the first 12 months when I'm coaching CEOs is figuring out what those 3 to 5 things are that really drive the business, right? Figure out what those metrics are that are going to be the thing that you really have to pay attention to and that are really going to provide tailwinds to the business. Because in the beginning, you might have an idea of what that is, but you don't know what you bought that you bought, right? So get in, figure that stuff out.
Let me double click, financial metrics, KPI metrics, something else.
In terms of like hard metrics, say you
Assessing
hit this
CEO.
number.
I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to find a way to assess and track.
Yeah, so we do track it. I think the question of like, are there hard numbers and your sort of targets that you're making them hit? No. Certainly we underwrite the deal at a certain level, so that's an expectation of how you're doing relative to that, or like relative to the prior period. But I'm much more focused on trend and, then like, hey, revenue better be this number or else. They are, our companies are reporting monthly with financials and look them over. Again, part of my career was spending 2 years doing nothing but looking at financial statements, so I'm pretty comfortable doing that. And I review with CEOs, but also I encourage the CEOs to go through a process of reviewing their own performance monthly with their senior teams, which is generally something that no small business ever does. Right? So that's something you do in the first 12 months. All right, what is our management meeting going to look like? What financial information are we going to review? What operational information are we going to review? How do you do that in a way that really generates buy-in among the middle management? So all that's happening in the first 12 months.
As much as you can share, what is like average compensation look like in your GDP program versus getting put into a CEO role?
Yeah, I'll say I think it's competitive, very competitive. Certainly, CEO role we're structuring on purpose so that if you are committed to long-term capital compounding, like we are as an organization, you're going to do as well, if not better, than you could in search with no PG. So very recently, I was the one who PG'd for you. Well, they now already left for the ship PG. It's nice. So that's it. Search with exit.
Yeah, I think so. The question may be like, you were just saying a CEO can do as well.
Yes. Total economic consideration.
One last question for everybody. Raise do you have an SBA loan in your SMB deal? So I think the thing I've seen consistently is that maybe that highly levered impacts behavior in the early days.
Yeah.
So like, what would your approach be on sort of highly levered business acquisition versus your approach?
Yeah. And listening to some of Will's podcasts, it's like 95% leverage. I remember hearing that for the first time, like I would throw up every single one. So God bless you guys. But it doesn't mean, and then you have like Jim Sharp on the other end, it's like keeps you sharp. He's not wrong. It does keep you sharp. I was talking to someone yesterday who's telling me that their SBA loans are now up to like 11.4%. So like if that were me right now, I think it's pretty easy. Like if I were to have great opportunities to reinvest in my business, in which case I'd be pretty confident that all of you could find opportunities to reinvest in your business at a higher return than 11%. But that opportunity set's probably going to be somewhat capped, somewhat limited. I would then be paying out debt, guaranteed 11.4% return. So you're delevering, you're de-risking the company, and you're earning 11% all at once. The current status right now is not good.
And while I agree, the leverage approach and the cash flow being tighter than otherwise would be is kind of a way that you're in crisis mode early on, right? You're probably new to the industry.
Yep.
Highly levered, cash flow is tight, and man, is that a forcing function to getting into the business?
Yep.
And going all the way back out. The situations where we've seen starters get in trouble is not enough personal touch on revenue, making sure revenue stays solid. And once revenue, starts going sideways and there's leverage, that's when problems happen. So in a way, it kind of forces, getting close to the action.
Yeah, I'll say something like I would have said 10 years ago, I'm like, don't worry about revenue growth. Focus on everything other than revenue growth. And then I realized if you don't do that, the chance of the revenue decline is actually going to be higher. What I meant, which I still hold true, is if you go into a new business, new industry, and just try and jack growth, you don't really understand how the business functions. It's like there's a saying: you shoot for the stars, it's okay to land on the moon. Like shoot for the stars, you can land in hell. It's like you can grow yourself out of cash, or you can grow yourself into a bunch of pissed off customers because you don't have the logistics or the operations muscle built to support that. So I still believe in that. So I still would tell people, whether that's Chenmark or elsewhere, like, don't go in and try and just go VC, blitz scale, shoot the moon. But a little bit of growth does help cover a lot of sins. That part's the future. That part's the future. Like 5 to 10% growth really covers up a lot of mistakes.
All right, we'll call it a day. Thanks, Palmer.
Thank you.